Welcome into the roundtable. I'm Bill Priestley. Today we're going to be talking about the state of the owner-operator. We've got two people that can talk to some expert level about that as well. Louis Pugh joins us. He's the Executive Vice President of WIDA, as well as Joe Antashak, who joins us, our Senior Editorial Researcher, coming to us out of Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Louis, let me start with you. Owner-operators this year have gone through a lot, but can you kind of give us kind of the state of the owner-operator and maybe perhaps what is the biggest misconception right now about the owner-operator?
The owner-operator, if they have contract rates with their own customers and stuff, they're probably still doing pretty well. It seems what we're seeing is contract rates are holding steady. Guys are being able to kind of recover their fuel with fuel surcharges and stuff like that. The guys that are living and dying by the spot market, unfortunately, seem to be dying because the spot market rate has really gotten bad, as we've seen, and if you guys have reported as well. So it's kind of where it's two different things. Of course, we at OIDA always push folks to get their own customers and kind of use the spot market rate as a necessary evil when they need to get themselves back from areas. The other thing that's coming into play here, the last 2 years have been really, really good, year and a half or so, versus COVID. And guys have really made record money. We've read, and guys have talked over and over and over how much more money that they made in record years. So some guys have that to fall back on. But the other bad thing is with all these people making extra money, lots more people got into the business. Unfortunately, whenever we get lots more people into the business and truckers, and then we get a downturn like we're seeing, then that's where people start competing for each other's freight. My opinion would be is if the spot market rates continue to drop, we're going to start seeing the contract rates do the same because guys will be reaching out or trying to get into those other contract markets and take that freight from someone else.
Joe, let me turn to you in terms of you had a chance to write about this and the kind of the transformation of the owner-operator to some sort of a degree. What has kind of happened with the perception of this obviously necessary part of trucking? It seems like this is kind of the little guy against the world scenario all over again with the way that owner-operators have been perceived, perhaps through AB5, perhaps through, again, just a little guy going up against the big guy.
Yeah, I think Louis touched on a bit of that in his answer. Right, we ran this survey in May and June of this year, specifically looking at how good was last year for owner operators, and how is this year in comparison? And right, last year was quite good, and this year it seems like is quite a bit worse for many owner operators. We asked them to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, what you think this year is going to be like profitability wise, and we had, I think, 35% of respondents say they rated it a 1, so that's like the lowest you could possibly go. And right, the sort of little guy versus the big guy story is, I think, certainly really applicable for the owner operators. Louis mentioned this too. So with rates at like historic highs during the pandemic and super high demand for trucker services, you saw a bunch of people, I think, strike out on their own and become owner operators. And right, if they made a bunch of money during the good times, they can maybe fall back on that now. But if they didn't stash enough of that away, they're basically getting squeezed now. And a lot of them, it seems, don't really know what they're going to do. I've had people reach out to me and ask, like, when is this going to change? When are things going to take a turn for the better? And it's tough to say when that's going to happen.
Yeah, we saw volumes, of course, go through the roof as the pandemic came in. And, of course, people started spending a lot of money, and that brought a lot of freight and volumes to the scene. And now we're kind of returning, hopefully, back to a little bit of a normal. Louis, going off of that, what kind of are you telling owner-operators right now? Obviously, you just mentioned, you're living and dying if you go by the spot market. But what is the general consensus about what a traditional owner-operator needs to be doing right now to stay alive?
Again, get those contract freight as best you can. make sure you're getting fuel surcharge, put fuel surcharge in your contract, be paying attention to that. Be aware that because we get this question a lot, people think that that's a law. There is no law for, or regulation that they have to pay fuel surcharge, but make sure you get that fuel surcharge in place and, and, um, and are getting that. If you haul broker loads or something like that, ask for a fuel surcharge. Don't be afraid to negotiate better rates.
Joe, owner-operator is obviously a necessary part of the freight engine. Given what you know, how much value right now do owner-operators get in this entire thing? Obviously, again, necessary part of the equation, but sometimes perhaps forgotten in the mix. How much value right now do owner-operators feel they have, like with this survey that you had?
Yeah, well, I think from the survey, they feel, as I said, pretty squeezed. They feel, I don't know if forgotten is the right word, but it, they're being hit by this downturn in spot market rates and potentially, declining contract rates as well. I think more so than a lot of larger carriers. But Louis, talking about like the fuel surcharges, I think makes a really good point. It's like the best thing I think owner operators can do is sort of think more along the lines of how like large carriers operate, which is basically just implementing strategies that can help them hedge against like rising cost of fuel, for instance, which in the survey we ran was the primary concern for the owner operators that responded.
Yeah, Louis, let me jump back to you for just a second. That value, of course, that owner-operators have in being a necessary part of the supply chain. What obstacles right now, other than just simply obviously surviving, getting those contract rates, as you mentioned, getting those fuel surcharges, are there any obstacles that owner-operators need to demonstrate to get more of that value so that they're looked at and valued more by brokers and by people who can give them those opportunities?
I think owner operators always seem to get a better value, and it's not that I'm against anybody. It just seems like a lot of guys, if an owner operator, and this is what you have to. I always say you have to give quality because you don't have quantity like the big carriers do. So be there, get your pickups, pick up on time, deliver on time, communicate with your customers if there is a problem, if there is going to be an issue. Try to have that smile on your face. And I know it gets frustrating when you get to shippers or receivers and they're giving you a hard time, but just try to be happy, put a smile on your face, and not cause any problems. Again, quality, not quantity. That's what you got as an owner operator, in my opinion. And that's where it can help you, especially getting contracts and working with customers. Because if you do what you said, and that shipper knows when they put that load on your truck, you're going to get it there when you're supposed to. That eases their mind, and that makes them a lot more likely to call you. So that would be my bet, I guess. Right now, quality. Just try to do your best and give these people what they ask for a fair price, but a price to keep you in business and to keep you operating every day. And one other thing I wanted to add, another thing we're probably going to see, in my opinion, will be a lot of guys with their own authority putting on hold or deactivating and maybe leasing to bigger carriers as well, because a lot of times you see that happen as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it. Joe, kind of as we start to wrap this thing up, as you looked at what you've learned through the survey and what you've learned overall concerning the owner-operator situation, how would you forecast the owner-operator right now in terms of how they're going to do in the future and how well they're going to be doing? Obviously, as these spot rates and contract rates hopefully start to come back up as volumes continue to descend, at least hopefully back to normal levels.
Yeah, it's a really tough question. But yeah, I sense that the survey results were published earlier this week. I've had some emails from people asking me that same thing. It's like, well, when is this going to change? Things are pretty tough out here right now. And yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to say, and I don't want to totally punt on it, but it seems like for the rest of the year, I think things will probably continue being difficult. There are a lot of little things owner operators can do, like Louis talked about, to sort of improve their own chances here. But yeah, I mean, I think that things will keep being tough until we move past this inflationary period and probably beyond whatever period we're in now. I don't want to say recessionary exactly, but recessionary adjacent period. Once we get out of that and I guess the Fed starts cutting interest rates again, then I think we can expect times to be a little bit easier for owner operators. But that could be, I mean, middle of 2023. It's difficult to say how soon that's going to come. But right, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how many owner operators are, lease on to larger carriers.
Louis, we had somebody on FreightWaves Now about a month ago talking about what truckers need to be doing, what drivers need to be doing to get those loads. And one of them said, you just got to be scrappy from here on out. Let me ask you this question. Do you have to change your strategy other than simply going after, like you said, going after the contract rates and going after those contracts? Other than that, what do you change your rhythm? In other words, what's got you this far may not get you to the next place. Should you change lanes? Should you try something new, or should you stick with what you've already known in terms of any way of getting the load that you need?
That's a big open-ended question. I would say yes. You have to be willing to change lanes. I mean, it's an old saying, everybody at trucking says that nothing good ever lasts in this business, and it doesn't. I know when I had my truck for almost 25 years, there was quite a few times I changed lanes, changed strategy. What you have to do is use the knowledge and experience you've had in the past and use that moving forward. So yes, they may have to start going different places, running different lanes, hauling different products, pulling different types of trailers. The more flexible and diverse you can be, especially in times like these, are going to make you more profitable and help you continue your business. If you have the mindset of this is what I'm going to do, if you're a zip code or railroad track trucker, as we used to call them, or probably still do, well, I'm only going from here to here, and that's where you're probably going to fail in a market like this. You have to be flexible. But again, you have to use your past experience moving forward to make sure you're doing the right thing. But yeah, by all means, this probably isn't a time to dig in the heels and say, this is only what I'm going to do.
Gotcha. Well, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us again. Louis Pugh, Executive Vice President of OOIDA, and Joanne Chak, our Senior Editorial Researcher here at FreightWaves. Thanks so much for the conversation, and we'll obviously continue to keep an eye on this throughout the rest of the year.